My dear students of class 10, today I shall take a class on the second unit of the text, The Passing Away of BAPU. You have read unit 1 of this text and you have understood well that the text is about how the people of India felt over the death of the father of nation, Mahatma Gandhi. And in the text, there is also the description of how the author Nayantara Sehgal felt individually over the sudden death of Mahatma Gandhi. Now today I shall read Unit 2 of the text. Gandhiji's funeral was to take place the day before after his death. After the death of Gandhiji, it was decided that his funeral was to be held a day after his death. Hours in advance, people lined the route the funeral procession was to follow. Now, people were too much shocked, too much grieved, and at the same time, they were too much eager as they wanted to see Gandhiji's body for the last time. So, when it was announced that his funeral was to be taken place, and accordingly, his funeral procession was to follow a route, that route was crowded by the people in a line. Mrs. Naidu's daughter spoke for us all when she said simply, "We will walk. It is the last time we shall be walking with Babu." Mrs. Naidu, Naidu, Padduzi, Mrs. Naidu's daughter, Sarojini Naidu's daughter. She was the spokesperson of the author and her associates. She spoke for their group and she said for all her associates that they would walk, reasoning out that that was the last chance for them to walk with Babu. It was an agonizing walk, so really painful walk it was, because in that walk Gandhiji was not a living participant. He was just a dead body in that walk. So it was really painful for everybody. Thousands silently watched the procession. Thousands, people in great numbers, started watching the procession silently without speaking a single word, as they were truly shocked. Babu lay on an open truck covered with flowers. Babu's body lay on an open truck, and the truck was fully decorated with flowers. Thousands of people wept trying to touch Babu's feet. People were too much desperate to try to touch their beloved Babu. It was impossible to move in the thick crowd, but the crowd was so thick and it was quite impossible for anyone to move in the thick crowd. As I moved forward slowly, I understood I was not merely in the midst of grieving people. Now, as the author personally felt, When she moved forward slowly, she understood that she was not just in the midst of grieving people, but she felt more than that. This was even more than the funeral procession of India's beloved leader. That was the procession of their beloved leader. But the authors felt something more than that. The authors regarded that it was more than a funeral procession. Now, what was that? I was among people, as the author felt, was such that she was among people for whom walking with Babu had a special meaning. While she was walking in the midst of the thick crowd that day, she felt that walking that day bore a special meaning. We had walked with Bapu over the rough and smooth of India's recent history. Very recently, Gandhiji led all Indians over the rough and smooth path of India. Gandhiji led all Indians to work for achieving India's freedom. That day was a different day. When people were walking with Bapu, who once led all the people to walk, not walking. He was just lying on an open truck. People were walking, except we could not now accept the fact that the man who had led us over many difficult paths was never going to walk with us again. The fact that Gandhiji would no more walk with people, would no more lead anyone to walk, and himself would no more walk. That was that fact was very unfavorable fact. That fact was not an acceptable one by anyone. Babu's slight figure had walked stiff in hand over a large part of India. You know, Babu had a slight figure. Babu had a thin physique, and he had always a staff in his hand. And with that, he walked over a large part of India with many followers of him. To walk is to make slow progress. Gandhiji believed that to walk means making slow progress. It is to think with clarity and closely look at all that is around you, from small insects to the horizon in the distance. Now, if one walks, he or she would get the chance to watch a thing very clearly, very closely, even from little insects to something in the distant horizon. So that is an advantage, that is a great benefit for one if he or she walks. That was the concept of Gandhiji. That was the idea of Gandhiji. That was the thought regarding. That was the thought of Gandhiji regarding walking. Moreover, to walk was often the only way open to the average Indian. Besides, walking was then a compulsion. Walking was then in India was the only option left for people to move from one place to another. Most of the Indians would find walking as the only means for moving from one place to another. It required no vehicle except his own body and cost him nothing but his energy. Walking had another advantage because walking required no vehicle, no transport at all, except one's own body, and walking cost anyone nothing but just physical energy. So walking was very acceptable means for most of Indians for moving from one place to another. And Gandhiji regarded himself to be among the average Indian, or in other words, you can say Gandhiji always regarded to be an ordinary person. So he always would enjoy walking. He always would prefer walking. So walking was very much preferred by Gandhiji, but it was very painful that when people of India in great numbers were walking, Gandhiji was not. That fact was very unfavorable, intolerable, and very much heartbreaking for the people of India, as was felt by the authorities. Nointara Shehbal. Gandhiji took this necessity as he took much that was commonplace and transformed it into a joyful effort. So Gandhiji took this necessity, the necessity of walking, and he would always enjoy walking as he always did. Particularly, this can be said that Gandhiji would always transform a commonplace to a joyful effort. Commonplace means ordinary. So, what is ordinary uh, could be transformed by Gandhiji to a joyful effort or an effort full of joy. So, in simply speaking, Gandhiji would always enjoy walking, but that day when people of India were walking in Gandhiji's funeral procession, Gandhiji would not be able to walk anymore. Uh, when the authorities felt so, she was greatly pained at heart. That was the feeling of not only the author or authoress, you can say, Navintara Segal, but that was the feeling of the people of India. Okay, dear students, today I end this text, the part of this text, the passing of Bapu, and I hope you will read the text thoroughly and you will understand the meaning of every line after watching this video. And very shortly, I'm coming with next video to read um, the unit 3 of the text, the passing away of. Goodbye.